retention marketing revenue. It's my agency that I founded called Prolific Media, and our partner Klaviyo, who just rebranded and has a new logo. Give it one more minute. I see attendees rolling in, even Matt more now. All right, Bailey, you want to start?
Yeah, let's get rolling.
All right, cool. Let's get rolling. So we're very excited to be here. Thank you, everyone, for your time. We really appreciate it. I think the significance of this webinar is super important in this evolving, political, economical, and advertising environment. And we just wanted to come together to kind of shed light and really shine a greater light on the importance of lifecycle marketing and how that impacts your bottom line. One thing that we always say at Prolific, which you'll probably see in this presentation, is, we like to think of ourselves as EBITDA-driven performance marketers. We really care about our brand partners' bottom line and their net profit versus just like top line revenue and or vanity metrics. And so what we're here to do is to talk about how we at Prolific are navigating the iOS changes, the economic situation, and what I like to say and what I told Bailey and the Klaviyo team is digital and physical inflation. So we'll go over, more things about what we're going to talk about today, but I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Ramsey Nassar. I'm the founder and CEO here at Prolific Media. We are a full funnel direct response advertising agency. I'm a serial e-commerce entrepreneur. I built my first online shop when I was 18 years old. To put that in perspective, I'm now 31. And learned a lot in the process of, building, scaling, and selling multiple ventures prior to starting the agency. And, I like to think of our partners as actual partners rather than just clients, because we really like to take a hands-on approach and help them and bolster their full funnel marketing efforts. And here today I have Bailey Markopoulos. I might have mispronounced that, but I'm
so
Greek,
close.
so my grandma would be very angry at me.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bailey Markopoulos. You're very, very close. People get it wrong all the time. I am the senior email marketing manager at Klaviyo. I sit within our lifecycle team. So we help everyone within the Klaviyo business look at all kinds of customers, from leads at the awareness stage to conversion to loyalty within our customer base. So fun fact, Klaviyo eats their own dog food, drinks their own champagne, however you want to say it. We use Klaviyo to power our email and SMS strategies. So while we do have a more B2B focus, we are right there with our customers using our Klaviyo account day in and day out to power our email and SMS strategies.
Awesome. And we also drink our own Kool-Aid here and use Klaviyo pretty rigorously for many purposes. So just a little bit more background about Prolific Media. We're a little over 4 years and a few months old. Again, prior to starting this, my co-founders and I all built and sold our own direct-to-consumer businesses. So we take a different approach than a lot of marketers, and we really like to dig into the unit economics. We really like to understand the business model and really everything about the business, the financials, in order to kind of bolster and derive a go-to-market and or scale-up plan. So as I mentioned, we're a world-class full funnel agency. We have over $150 million in ad spend. We've generated over $500 million since we started this a few years ago. That's actually probably an old stat because every month it goes up. And we've done over 60 million in email and SMS revenue. We are a Facebook preferred, or now you can call it Meta preferred advertising agency, a Google partner, Amazon advertising partner.
I'll say it one more time as a plug for anyone who might not have been on beforehand. The first slide that you saw had our logo that is now officially in antique. So as we're waiting, you can hop onto our Klaviyo website now. We rebranded yesterday, which was a big accomplishment for our creative team. So you can always go on and hop there. It's going to look a little bit different than the green that you normally saw, but we hope everyone really likes it. So I see here there's one question, open to share any funnel tips for any win-back series. I would say for this one, just looking at your win-back, something that we look at is all the time is really looking at like number one, who is that audience? At Klaviyo, we have our own win-back series, which is a little bit different than how our customers use it. Within a win-back series, I think there is a large audience. So what we try to do first is really break down who those individuals are. Within that, are there people who haven't engaged with you in the past 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? The way that you segment that audience is going to be a little bit different in how you talk to them, right? Like someone who has not bought from your store in the past 30 days, you could potentially win someone back with a smaller discount. And maybe those people who haven't engaged with you in the past, 6+ months, you could give them a larger discount. Just starting to think about that. So while there might not be any specific tactics there, the main thing that we start to really look at is who the audience is, how we can start to break them down. What have they done? So for instance, in an e-commerce store, have they bought from you once? Have they bought from you twice? Just starting to really look at that audience and break it down there. So hopefully that's helpful. If anyone has questions and they have access to our chat, feel free to throw them in as we're waiting for Ramsey to come back on. So question here. I'm new to Klaviyo, just joined last week. Well, one, welcome. How effective is SMS marketing? This is a topic that I love to talk about, mostly because we are using the same Klaviyo SMS tool as well as you. So I hear you about asking how effective it is. I think the main thing to think about with email versus SMS, and you will probably feel the same way if you're a consumer as well. SMS is a very personalized channel. You don't want to be texting someone at 2:00 in the morning. You probably also don't want to be doing that, sending emails, because you're not going to get great conversions. But someone's phone probably isn't dinging if you do send them an email at 2:00 in the morning versus a text. So it's a much more personalized channel. And I would say you have to be a lot more careful when you use it to do it right. So taking different tactics between email and SMS is extremely important. That being said, it can be a very, very, very effective channel if you do layer it on with email. So it's something that we do, something that your Klaviyo account can do. You can take, for instance, an automation where you could create a welcome series. So someone gives you their information on a form on your website. You start a welcome series to sort of have them know more about your brand, get them educated, get them back onto your website. You could send an email right when, within the hour that someone signs up on a form on your website with a 10% off coupon. 2 days later, if someone hasn't used that coupon and they have given you their telephone number as well, you could text them again saying, welcome to XYZ brand. Just a reminder that you do have a 10% off coupon that you can use. So when it's layered with specifically with email, SMS marketing can be very effective. You just have to be very, very careful using that channel and make it as personalized as possible. I see one question. If anyone is interested in contacting Klaviyo, you can go right onto our website and request a demo. Someone from sales will talk to you about your specific needs, walk you through our platform, and then also how it relates to what you're trying to accomplish. So you can go right onto our website to do that. And then another question is, have you worked with a sterling silver company? I can guess most likely there's another sterling silver company on Klaviyo. I would say, I don't want to say 100%, but I'm probably 99% sure that there's another sterling silver company that does use Klaviyo. If you have an e-commerce store, even if you don't and you have a specific reason for reaching out to your customers, Klaviyo is a really great solution. Ooh, okay, I love this question. Best practice for segmenting customers. Very broad question, but very good one. I think what we try to preach all the time is getting as personalized as you can with your customers. There are many different reasons why you do not want to use a batch and blast strategy, but instead start to segment your customer base. So we can take an example, for instance, within your entire customer base, you might be running a sale on blue t-shirts. You could segment your customers. Obviously, if they have consented to hear from you, that is a huge one, making sure. Then you can start to play around with what people have done on your e-commerce site. Are they a current customer? Are they not? Do you want to use a different discount for those people to try to get them in versus your customers? So start thinking about what your end goal is when you're trying to segment your customer base. Are you trying to get them back onto your website to buy a specific item? If you are connected with Klaviyo, all of your e-commerce store behavioral, metrics can be put into your Klaviyo account, and you can start segmenting that way. So I'd say have an end goal in mind and start playing around with who you want those people to be.
Awesome.
With that, we have Ramsey back.
Sorry, guys. The internet just crashed on me. Of course that would happen. So yeah, basically, towards my last point, shoppers spend on average 138%. I actually don't know when it dropped off, so I apologize. In essence, this slide is saying email and SMS equals free cash flow to your bottom line. I think there's some really staggering statistics here that we always try to keep top of mind at Prolific. Bailey, did you have anything to say that I missed here?
Nope, I think you're good here.
Okay, cool. So, a lot of you know this, but a lot of new people that are on this webinar might not. Email provides a super non-intrusive avenue to build trust. At the end of the day, we are marketers. We are brand owners, and we want to make sure that we have trust with our customers. And I think that's the most important factor on email and SMS. And if you do it with etiquette and you do it properly, you're going to be able to increase your average order value, increase your repeat purchase cadence, build a customer cohort based on how often certain customers purchase, and further segment them, which I'll talk about a little bit later. Referrals and brand loyalty. Again, it gives you the ability to stay super top of mind. And fundamentally, first-party data if something that you actually own, that, if if there's additional issues that happen with data privacy laws, which, the cookieless browser is coming soon, and things of that nature, then you actually own your own destiny and you can control your own narrative versus having, an algorithm do so for you. So really, again, just to reiterate, the goal of retention marketing via Klaviyo is to increase your customer lifetime value, grow your free cash flow, and most importantly, build trust with your audience.
Yep, I would say same thing here with retention marketing. We think about this as a life cycle team all the time. You spend so much time and effort getting people into the door. They've bought into what you're selling. You have a group of hand raisers. So now how do you keep them? And like Ramsey said, if you're not reliant on third-party data and you have all of this first-party data yourself, you have access to a wealth of all of this information on your customers, where you can then go use those segments that I was just talking about to create different segments such as loyal customers, one-time purchasers, subscribers who haven't purchased at all. You work really hard to collect this data. And if you have first-party data, you can then keep customers coming back in a really thoughtful way with segmentation.
Awesome. So just a bit on like what we're seeing from a 2022 outlook. 24% of iPhone users accepted ad terms. PayPal has warned that consumer spending is about to fall. Consumers have spent 0.6, less in December. That's a statistic that we pulled. All the sources are here as well. U.S. consumer sentiment hit more than a 10-year low, and inflation fears are mounting, and they're very real. So one thing, on that from that perspective that I've been, saying to different brands when CAC and blended customer acquisition costs has been going up, how do you combat that? You can combat that by diversifying your traffic channels, which I'll go into a little bit more and actually share tactical screenshots and results that we've been able to attain so you guys can see. But inflation fears are real. But, instead of taking that and being scared about it, I've been focusing more on the positivity and saying, well, if that's the case, the majority of companies have been able to raise their prices. So one thing that I've been saying in measuring different brand partners, EBITDA and, rising ad spend to website revenue ratios is now is actually a perfect time where you can either incrementally increase some of your pricing or just increase your pricing across the board, because the majority of the United States is, and at the end of the day, you're a business and you have to stay profitable.
One thing I would like to reiterate here, if consumer spending is potentially about to fall sharply, it's even more important to rely on that first-party data that you're collecting yourselves to create those highly personalized experiences for your customers. You're just going to be competing for even more inbox space with your competitors. So using your data to create the audiences of customers, again, say you have a sale on blue t-shirts, you could segment out by your VIPs for people who have never bought from you before. But overall, no matter what you're trying to do, you can use all of your first-party data to create these smaller personalized audiences who are going to resonate more with the messages that you're sending out in your emails, instead of doing a batch and blast to your whole list and hoping your message resonates with a very small percentage of those people. So one thing here, just to note, it's about personalization and segmentation. It's not always about your list size.
I wholeheartely agree with that. It's something that we preach and something that we tactically execute. I like the blue t-shirt example. We have another one, like we work with an amazing, I think I mentioned them, it's called Savannah Bee. And, there's a lot of different opportunities there from a segmentation perspective that we've been able to capture. There's honey buyers, there's beauty buyers, there's different tangents of honey or derivatives of the honey, and invariance really is what it is, right? And the great thing is that if you're able to segment, smaller audience sizes, we've been able to see increased click-through rates, which is, one of the main KPIs that we're focusing on, post iOS 15, with the iOS changes, open rates have been inflated, which, by the way, Klaviyo has a cool feature that we're going to talk about here that was released recently that allows us to toggle iPhone users on and off from a reporting and a send perspective. And then, so focusing on and mastering retention marketing, as Bailey said, is like really everything these days. And then the economic and global environment is working against us. So how do we actually, translate that to success? This is a pretty staggering statistic that I wanted to bring up. This is something that I don't think a lot of people share, but I just wanted to talk about the elephant in the room, which is rising advertising costs, less data. There's signal losses happening from social platforms and things of that nature. And I just wanted to really emphasize the importance of talking about this, because many brands that we work with, and that we are auditing presently, this is kind of how it looks. We've redacted customer information, obviously, for anonymity and privacy, but this is a gemstone jewelry brand. And the one of the key KPIs I want you to focus on here is CPMs. So if you see in 2019, the CPM was around $5. In 2020, it doubled. And in 2021, it doubled again. So this is not abnormal. This is something that we're seeing from a KPI perspective across the entire agency. And we have a pretty significant amount of ad spend going on paid social and paid search. So the overwhelming result is this is the new norm. We don't even know if we've reached a new norm, actually, but this is the actual year over year cost breakdown. So if we look at the CPMs for the CPG brand, you see that the CPM in 2019 was a little higher. It started to come down in 2020, which, by the way, everyone had a record year. I'd say 9.5 out of 10 brands that we work with, that we've audited, that I'm friends with, all did really well because everyone was inside. Everyone was stuck inside, essentially. There was a retail, apocalypse, as people are calling it. And then we see that kind of normalize or pull back. Retail started opening up. I'm sure if the brands on this webinar saw their, in 2020, saw your wholesale revenue deplete. 2021, you saw your wholesale revenue starting to increase, but a pullback on e-commerce. That is like a common theme that we've seen. And if you look, the CPMs are still high, on average 3 times as more as they were in 2019. So you're not alone. And I just wanted to bring this slide to everyone's attention because I think it's super important to just look at things factually rather than speaking in fluffy terms. And if you see, even more so, the returning customer rate is really what we're focused on here. So this is transparent. Again, I can send this deck after. The webinar recording will be sent after as well. But basically, brands are faced with a tough decision. We get on pretty hard calls every week with prospective brands and even certain current brands, because this is the matter of the fact. This is not, an isolated incident. This is what the majority of digital and retail brands are facing. And so when you're scaling up paid media, as a percentage of revenue, your percentage of revenue is likely, or your percentage of ad spend is likely going to go up, which is why, again, focusing on thorough segmentation, better automation, and just a better outbound campaign strategy with some of the behavioral targeting and audience behaviors that Klaviyo allows you to do, which we're going to go over, is just super important. So this is really transparent. We even have this across the entire agency to give you even further perspective. We have it even broken down by vertical of companies. So this is really the theme, though, that I wanted to share today. You have anything on this, Bailey?
No, I think you spoke to all of this. This is great.
Awesome. Yeah, I don't find that people like transparently share things, and I really wanted to like transparently share this. And yeah, just overall, this is just the elephant in the room, and we're going to unpack it further. So leveraging first-party data in a privacy-driven world, that's really why we're all here, because this is the most important part of the funnel right now. And it's not just about serving them with outbound campaigns and keeping your existing cadence going. It's about how do we serve them, how do we serve delineated parts of our list more without being overwhelming, but meeting them in the right moment. You know, I think one thing that we say at Prolific all the time is how can we meet the customer in the right moment from a timing perspective? And there's a lot of data and data modeling that we do here to understand the purchase cadence, when customers are likely to purchase, building cohort analysis from their analytics data, leveraging that back to the ad platform itself or Klaviyo itself. So I think this is a pretty staggering statistic. Gartner says by 2023, 65% of the world's population will have its personal data covered under modern privacy regulations. To put that into further perspective, in 2019, that statistic was approximately 10%. So it's moving, and it's moving fast. Now, a lot of brands, a lot of companies say, oh shit, what do I do now? And I think when there's pressure and when there's fear, that's when solutions and that's when innovation can actually prevail. So there's a lot of tactics here we're going to show you. But overall, you know, the push for privacy is only going to spur innovation, and we're starting to see that right now. Would you agree, Bailey?
100%. I would say as a consumer, I love my data being protected. As a marketer, it makes our lives a lot harder. I think everyone can agree with that. And like we said, it's only going to get worse for our side. So we have to adapt. Luckily with Klaviyo, they're helping us and our customers navigate these changes. For example, we all know Apple's mail privacy protection, and they like sort of inflates your email open rates. Klaviyo has actually built a condition within our segmentation that allows you to remove anyone that has this privacy feature turned on. So while this sort of makes our lives as marketers harder, we are adapting to these changes and helping our customers as well.
Awesome. And that's something that's pretty new, right?
Yep, we released this probably within the past 6 months. It was a feature that was not heavily promoted, but incredibly helpful as you're looking at your open rates and ensuring that they're not inflated.
Right. That's awesome. Again, why I think Klaviyo is the varsity and every other ESP is the freshman team. I think that's a quote I always use because it's just so powerful. So effective use of first-party data. It helps you drive higher conversion, upsells, average order values. It helps you uncover and unearth behavioral and spending trends in your user base that then you can in turn build and go on the offensive from a marketing perspective. It allows you to access much deeper analytics through full funnel tracking, which is something I'm about to talk about. I see a lot of brands not really using the proper UTMs and link infrastructures, which I'll share on the next slide. But this is something super important that we measure in how we report as well. and then allows you to more effectively and relevantly target through automation, segmentation, and I think the most powerful part is personalization. One thing that I love about Klaviyo, and we see on average a 35% lift on, is personalization. When you can delineate the customer and say, hi, Jane, or whatever her name is, or his name is, you can actually, through Klaviyo, do a first name campaign. We've seen that campaign crush it across so many different accounts. So it's super exciting, the level of personalization that you can do in Klaviyo. And then lastly, meeting your customer in the moment is something, again, we preach a lot at Prolific about. And I think this is what Klaviyo really allows you to do, is more so understand when the customer has a need and foreshadowing, almost predicting that need based on past data.
Exactly. And I think that first name example is really just the tip of the iceberg with personalization. Some other things that we've seen our customers use in terms of first party data in their Klaviyo accounts is a customer's purchase history, their time since their last visit, their average order value, if there's any subscription activity. You can use all of that first party data again to then create a more personalized experience.
Awesome. So this is something that I see all the time, and brands do not always use a consistent link infrastructure. I don't know who knows what a UTM is. Sometimes even relatively sophisticated companies don't always append UTMs properly. But basically, UTMs are an easy way to track user behavior and click journey to report on the efficacy of campaigns. And especially in like a paid social environment, when we're on average, we're seeing 40 to 50% signal loss. I mean, that's a pretty significant statistic. And what this allows us to do is allow us to append a unique tracking code to all of our paid advertising campaigns, all of our email campaigns, organic posts, affiliate posts, influencer posts. You get it. So on and so forth. And this allows us, when we're looking at our data holistically in a reporting environment, we're actually able to optimize based on the first party data that we received. So there also are a lot of third party, not a lot, but a decent couple good third party attribution softwares. And if you're planning on scaling paid social in particular presently, I highly advise looking into a third-party attribution software that integrates into paid channels, Klaviyo, etc., and allows you to utilize dynamic UTMs. It's really easy. You can get UTM generators and Google it to create that. And this is an example of a UTM. But we literally append UTMs. It's the first and foremost thing that we teach everyone here, no matter what division you're in at Prolific. A proper UTM and link infrastructure allows us to measure results. For example, if this creative and this copy on Facebook is working, in the Facebook dashboard, it might not have all the data fed back due to the Apple iOS privacy changes. And if you use a UTM, and we could see that the UTM has higher engagement, clicks, revenue from the campaign, etc., then we're able to actually not cut the spend or pull the spend back, but rather we're not blind anymore. And this is really important. I think a lot of companies overlook this, and I just wanted to double down to say that it's super important. And I know that we use it religiously, and I know that Klaviyo themselves use it and preach it as well.
Exactly. We work really closely with our demand gen teams to ensure we're using the proper tracking. So we can look to see a customer's journey from social over to email. But also within Klaviyo, whether you're sending a campaign or creating a flow, you can auto generate UTMs within Klaviyo, so you don't even have to worry about using an outside UTM generator.
Yep. And basically, this allows us to, again, see holistically across the funnel what is and what isn't working more thoroughly. Klaviyo is really good at this, but paid social platforms right now are not good. And I highly recommend, auditing your UTMs and making sure that throughout the customer journey and the entire funnel that you're using these. And you're going to thank me later because this data is going to live, not just in analytics, but in other channels, especially if you have a third-party attribution software. So the significance of email reporting, really, it's super important. At Prolific, we're looking at it every day, every other day, on a weekly basis, on a bi-weekly basis, on a monthly basis, and on a quarterly basis. And so we have and build real-time reports through Google Data Studio, and we pull in all of the channels. So we pull in paid social, paid search, native programmatic if you're running that, email and SMS, and we start measuring holistically across the funnel what is and isn't working. Our email reporting consists of creative insights, so any A/B tests, any split tests, anything that we're actually looking to utilize to make our future campaigns better, we're measuring. We teach our teams here to look at this and pull it regularly. It auto pulls into Data Studio, so we're able to see it, and our brand partners are also able to see it in real time. But the other thing that we do is attribution modeling and building attribution curves, which is much harder in today's environment. But this is something that we're able to do to almost predict where we're going to be in month end. This was easier to do pre-iOS, but this is still something that we do on our end. And this is something that we like to say is part of our secret sauce, because we're able to, with an nth degree of accuracy, understand where we're at from a paid Facebook, from a Google and or a Bing advertising perspective. Now, a lot of our brands are running TikTok and Snapchat, more so TikTok than Snapchat. Pinterest is becoming something even more, even though we've been using it for 5 to 6 years. And so we're really able to see, the click journey and the source data and how that builds a model essentially that allows us to optimize paid and email synergistically. And one thing that I wanted to mention that is, if you guys are interested in seeing a report for Prolific, you can email retention@prolific.media, and we're happy to share like an example of a redacted report with you, just to see like what you're doing versus what we're doing. One other thing that we're offering at the end of this is free audits for your email and paid channels. So minor plug there, but we're going to be offering free audits, which is like a pretty thorough diagnostic of what you're doing and sharing like what we would do differently or what you should be doing that's inefficient that you're not doing. But I often find that reporting is something that is not overlooked, but there isn't as much as a heavy emphasis on it. And there's one thing to report, but it's actually reporting on the right things to inform the future decisions that you're making.
I think that's great. And I would say, obviously, it is very important to report out on your emails to see how they're performing. But what's also pretty cool is to see how they compare against your peers. Our data science team is incredible and built out a tool called Benchmarks within Klaviyo that allows you to anonymously see data from in the same industry that you're in of companies that have a similar list size to you. So if you're a jewelry brand with 10,000 contacts, you can see on a month-to-month basis how your peers are performing with email and conversion rates in compared to how you're doing, which is really cool.
Yeah, we use that always, by the way, Bailey.
And
I
I'll
know I
just
mentioned
say,
that to you.
yeah, it's great. There's a quick question. How can you see that? You have to send at least 25 emails through Klaviyo before that tool is unlocked. But once you do, it's right in the analytics tab within Klaviyo.
Awesome. Great. If anyone has any questions on email reporting specifically, happy to answer them after. And then again, happy to share like an example of a redacted report with you. So we're going to talk about growing your lists now and the significance, importance of it, but also some like actual tactics that we're using across paid to then integrate into email, which is something we've been doing for a long time, but it's even more important now if you have some budget and test budget to do this. The first things first is I want to talk about the power of increasing your email capture rate. I played college baseball, so did my partner Jacob and our CMO. We always use like baseball in an analogy. So the higher the capture rate, which equals more swings at the at bat, which equals more sales. So a lot of the times people are optimizing everything, outside of their website consistently, which also includes your pop-up or pop-ups and how they're displayed and who they're displayed to and when they're actually displayed. So this is just a basic calculator that we're always monitoring like on a per account basis to see like how we can, with more efficacy increase capture rates based on different promotional periods and things of that nature. So you see at 100,000 visits at 4%, by the way, on average, we see like capture rates at around 5 to maybe 8%, depending on which capture form you use. Klaviyo has a few options built in that are pretty good. And then there's also third parties that I'll share with you that we use that are also really good. But that same statistic at 4%, if we could get that capture rate to 15%, look at the significance in clicks and purchases. Fundamentally, that is free cash flow to your bottom line. And we're going to show some examples right now as to like different capture rates that we like, both that we work with and brands that, we love. Again, your pop-up matters a lot. What is the goal of the pop-up, right? Do you want to capture just emails or SMS or both? A lot of what we're doing now, moving into 2022, is having like a two-step form where we're doing both, where we're doing email and then we're giving them an escalated incentive to get SMS or to give us their SMS, which also has automation behind it, which is mirrored based on the email automation as well. Who should get this pop-up? Past customers, non-customers, users with items in their cart, first-time visitors, etc. When should the pop-up actually happen? On time delay, right away, on a 50% web page scroll, on exit intent? The answer is all of the above, but it has to be tested, and especially during different peak periods of traffic, holidays, for example, Mother's coming up. We're having a big emphasis from an automation, but also a campaign perspective and the pop-up on the website and how the website actually looks for a lot of our brands. And then what should the pop-up offer be? A % off, a flat discount, or a BOGO? We often find that the majority of brands use like a % off the start, like 10 to 15%. But you could also get really creative with this. Again, this depends on your margins and your unit economics as a brand. But, for exit intent, which I'll show you here, we use spin to win a lot of the times. It's very important that we use that because people are going to exit, but we have one last shot to get them, right? So a lot of the times we do a BOGO on that, which has a specific email automation sequence to that specific exit intent pop-up. And then lastly, like, do you want it to be, clean, that matches your brand, or interactive? It could be gamified, that allows the user to play so they can win. A lot of the times, especially with like fashion, luxury, and certain brands, it's always about aesthetic and matching like what makes sense. So we're an advocate of that, but ultimately we like to say data over ego and emotion. So if we see something that's working, we bring it up to our partners, and we want to test. So we have a lot of accounts that we're able to test on. We're able to do, riskier things, I should say, that allows us to test hypotheses, because marketing is all about just testing hypotheses.
Yep, I love that. And I know we're coming up on time, but just one thing here to note of when a pop-up should show up to anyone on your website. It sounds so simple, but really think about what you as a consumer would want. I have gone on to many websites where, as a marketer, I know I want to collect that information as soon as I possibly can, which is a really bad customer experience if you're trying to show a pop-up pretty much right away, unless someone is already really familiar with your brand. So if you have net new people coming to your website, you might want to hold off on that delay so they can understand what your brand is, buy into what you're selling, and then you can show that pop-up to get their information. So again, sounds simple, but think about what you as a consumer would want.
Right. So some pop-up recommendations, I'll try to cruise through this as I know we're a little bit behind, but it appears on exit intent to lower your website bounce rate. I would recommend capturing both email and SMS and then having an automation flow speaking specifically to them, both non-customer and customer. So a lot of the times to target non-customers, what we like to do and what we're testing, especially this year, is quizzes and like more of a game. Like, for example, we run a houseplant website. One thing that we're testing there is a quiz to find, for someone who doesn't know, to be able to give them the opportunity to figure out what their, houseplant of choice or houseplants of choice should be. Things like gathering customer birthdays is also really awesome, and we do a lot of automations behind that. What we've noticed through prolific data is e-com brands with a 10 to 25% off site-wide or a BOGO usually perform better, especially with consumer purchasing behavior as where it is today. Using a gamified pop-up through platforms like Wheelio to get the highest opt-in rate. For luxury brands, a standard form is recommended, but we've implemented that Wheelio pop-up, which is a Shopify app if you're on Shopify. As long as it's branded right, this thing hits on average about 20 to 25% from an opt-in perspective. So it's really awesome. And then, test. We're always testing here. And we're about to show you some things that we're actually testing. So this is an example of Wheelio on soilandclay.com. This is actually the account and a screenshot from the account. So before we installed it on this website, the opt-in I think was like 5 or 6% on average. I believe that we're hitting around 16% now, and lifetime it's 24% on this account. Again, this is the Wheelio app on Shopify, and we usually set this to exit intent only to new customers. So existing visitors are excluded from this, so it's not too intrusive. This is a two-step capture form. I know Bailey and Klaviyo loves this, but this is a two-step capture form where you can escalate the discount or keep the discount the same to get the SMS number as well. And this is just, again, getting more first-party data, which is super important. This is a great brand we like called Fish Hippie. Cool. These are some data gathering tactics that we're seeing and that we're using. So you could see a quiz for data collection here on BuzzFeed. You could see the quiz on Soil and Clay. You could also see it on another plant website called Lively Root. You could see you could do a feedback survey, personal preferences, playful data verification, proactive opt-out. So This is also a site that we really love called Really Good Emails that my friend is a co-founder of. If you're not on it, that's a source of inspiration that I was going to say at the end. But Really Good Emails and Mild are two really great resources to kind of spy on other brands and learn from them. It's kind of like Facebook ads library for email. So here are some tactics that we're using from an organic and a paid lead generation effort that we're also seeing out there. So, the goal now isn't just to drive direct conversions, but to do more lead tactics. So you could drive people from social media to email and SMS by running a swipe up campaign and having them enter to win. So giveaways do really well. I'm sure you guys are thinking the same thing on organic social. The majority of brands we see that run the proper giveaway with that proper structure can be emulated on paid, driving them directly and integrating it directly into Klaviyo to nurture them and have a post lead strategy there. So this is something that we're testing on a handful of brands, from beauty to fashion to consumer packaged goods and furthermore. Really every vertical can test this out. We've seen success on these type of brands. This is an amazing campaign that we were running for a brand that we run called Catskin. They sell automotive leathers. And this is a TikTok example where we're running a cost per lead campaign. We're averaging a pretty good CPL on this. And we started at a couple hundred bucks a day on TikTok, which is even low on TikTok, but the CPMs are so cheap that we said, why not? We'll test it out. And now we're spending on average like $1,000+ a day just on a campaign like this, and measuring the efficacy has been amazing. So we're syncing this directly into Klaviyo as well. And then there's a post lead funnel. So this is an interactive video. You'll probably be retargeted if you go on Catskin's website. So you'll be in the their audience bucket. But this is something that I wanted to share that's an actual like live campaign that's running that is kind of out of the box and isn't just trying to drive instant gratification from a purchase perspective. Using email to drive SMS opt-ins. This is something that we like. I love this brand called Magic Spoon. I think they do a great job on retention and SMS. SMS is skating to where the puck is going. Email is still king, but SMS is really skating to the puck where the puck is going, in our opinion. So having a bulletproof SMS strategy is just as important now as an email strategy. I love this campaign where it says, "Can we have your digits?" I think that's a playful, cheery way to get someone's phone number and not be too aggressive. Another thing that we're using, and a lot of times that we see from both an email and an SMS perspective, is early access. That is a segment based on VIPs that we're running both on email and SMS from a segment perspective, and giving them early access to new drops. Supply chain issues have affected different brands in the past, but this really allows you to treat your VIPs with a lot of respect, and a lot of the times they like that they get first access before others. So here are some email and SMS automation best practices. Revenue from an email, proper email automation account is between 10 and 20% of your overall revenue. Automated emails have the power to outperform campaigns and emails across the board, with around 1,500% higher conversion rates and 1,400% higher revenue per recipient on average, which Bailey can corroborate.
Yep.
Here are some sequences that we think you should be using. So must-haves. We put nice-to-haves, but I also think these are must-haves. Abandoned cart, non-customer welcome series, customer welcome series. We set a lot of conditional splits in Klaviyo based on cart value, based on who's visiting. Some nice to have sequences: general browse abandonment, product browse abandonment, customer winbacks, post-purchase specific flows. If you're a CPG brand that sells different types of jams or honeys or plants, for example, if you're an apparel brand, this is also relevant. You can highlight different recipes to people based on what they bought. For plants, we see it like if you bought this, you could buy that. If you bought a tube top from an apparel brand or an athleisure brand with a certain type of legging, and there's a similar legging that's coming out, you can delineate that specific audience and that specific customer and target the cohort of customers to get that new product drop. And you can also treat them differently than the rest of the list and how you speak to them, because you know that they've shown intent, they've already bought, or they've shown intent in the past. Another thing that we see is time and data targeted sequences. So birthdays with special promo codes or product purchase anniversaries. One thing that we've also implemented in testing recently, not just from an outbound campaign perspective, but automation, is the brand anniversary. We've seen that do really well. That also translates directly into paid advertising. So we've run anniversary sales, and that speaks specifically to paid, but also translates to retention.
Yep, I think here too, just to mention, you can layer in email and SMS in a really thoughtful way in all of these sequences. So for example, if someone has you have an abandoned cart series, within an hour after someone abandons a cart, you can send them an email. A day later or 2 days later, if they have, you can create a conditional split. And if they've consented to receive text messages from you, you can remind them via SMS. So it's not about blasting the same message on two channels at the same time to someone. It's about layering it in a very thoughtful way.
Wholeheartedly agree with that. Abandoned cart best practices that we see is split between customers and non-customers, so you could treat them differently. A lot of the times we set, depending on the brand, like under 75, over 75, under $150, over $150, and really building that out. So a lot of the times when we audit an account, we see like one abandoned cart flow, like it's kind of primitive. But one thing we're putting even a bigger emphasis on is automation from an email and SMS perspective. And per Bailey, what Bailey just said is how they interact with each other, and and it's not redundant and annoying, but rather thoughtful and timely. For past customers, we don't like to offer them an incentive right away all the time, because they know you already and they're likely to buy at full price. Highlight, any buy now or pay later feature like Afterpay, Shop Pay, Quad Pay, Affirm, Sezzle, etc. Have the email trigger within an hour of abandoning their cart. Sometimes we even go 30 minutes. Have it be at least a 3 email sequence, with the last email adding more urgency and possibly an additional incentive to act now. I'm just cruising through this now. For non-customers, trigger the email and SMS within 30 minutes of them abandoning. If you can offer them an immediate incentive to act, we do recommend that. Some brands don't want to, but we see higher take rates on the ones that do. If you're a little more apprehensive to that idea, you can also offer free shipping, and you could put that free shipping for a certain period of time to build the scarcity and FOMO. In the second email, mention that an incentive you offered in email 1 and mention that it's about to expire, as I just said, in 24 hours. This is a tactic that we use. In email 3, make this really urgent, give them the FOMO, mention their cart, and then say basically the incentive is expiring soon. One thing from an automation, but also from a Klaviyo perspective that we see work is the timer. You can actually put a timer on the email. Sometimes people say it's not on brand. I totally understand that. But when there's ship cutoff dates for Christmas, Mother's Day, etc., you can use this feature where it actually says 24 hours and it counts down. We've seen that work a lot. You couple that potentially with a personalized email with their first name. That is a report back to me if anyone does that, because I'm pretty inclined to say that that's going to crush it for you. Here's an example of an abandoned cart that we've ran from one of my most favorite brands in America called Savannah Bee. Best honey if you haven't tried it. Highly recommend you go there. They have 15 retail stores and a blossoming retail digital business. Here are some sequence examples. I guess they didn't give me access, but again, this deck's going to be sent, so we'll make sure that it's fixed. This is from a CPG brand called Pear Snacks. So that's like a recipe that we sent. Another sequence example that we were going to show you was from soilandclay.com. So if you want to subscribe to Soil and Clay and see the automation there, you can also subscribe to citrus.com. And see automation there. That's another example. Non-customer welcome series best practices. The people that don't know your brand much, right? These are people that are top of funnel, a lot of the times net new prospects that are driven from non-email and SMS. So your goal is to get them to buy, right, and build that impulsive nature by showing them social proof so they can trust you, and by giving them a reminder for the incentive that they use to join your list. So you can use past customer reviews. This is something we use often and that we like to replenish and update. Use user-generated content from social media. Straight, authentic UGC usually works. Also, from a paid advertising perspective, we're seeing that even more so work now post iOS is user-generated content. Any good PR that you've received from publications that they would recognize is kind of a flex you can throw in here as well. Here are some non-customer welcome series that we've either built or love. So as you see with Express, there's still the buy now, pay later. They're showing social proof with customer reviews. If you see Me Jury right here, this fine jewelry company led by some really smart folks in Canada who are actually Jordanian, which is part of my background. You see the quotes here, similar. Plus, this is more of like a creative twist on it. We like the plus. The hierarchy of the automation looks great too. And then you can see this other example right here where it's like value, 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 finest quality, amazing selection, exceptional value. Customer welcome series best practices. This is, the chance to get your customer and paint a picture as to who you brought in from either existing customers or net new customers. You also know their user behavior and their purchase history, so you can take the opportunity to show them something that they will like in the right timing. So for consumer packaged good brands, it's often about like replenishment, for example. You can have a replenishment flow. You can delineate customers who bought something, and we can build a cohort to say, here's when we think that they're likely to be out based on previous data from a repeat purchase cadence. This really allows you to know who your customer is, build trust and loyalty. Here are some examples of customer welcome series. We speak at Prolific to a lot of female brands, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that. We're agnostic as to who we work with, but we do work with a heavy amount of like female specific companies that target, anywhere from 24 to 65 years of age. So here are some email and SMS campaign best practices. Build out your campaign calendar. Start by building a quarterly email and SMS calendar. This can be done very simply via Google. Add promotions and launches to it. Know what the cadence is, and make sure that you also know specifically to your brand, like what the best days are. That's what we measure a lot, best days and times, which is why I love Klaviyo, because it allows you to do things like optimal send time and finding those out.
I think one thing to note here too is don't forget about the sequences and automations you have running in the background. So say, for instance, you don't want anyone who's going through your current 5-day welcome series to get a campaign send. You can create a segment within Klaviyo to exclude those people from campaign sends. So they're just focused on the welcome series and not getting these one-off emails from you.
Great point. Here are some segmentation and personalization tips. Leveraging even basic segmentation personalization to speak to that target audience can boost engagement and performance by over 20%. I really, really love the first name campaign. I wouldn't always use it, but I would use it at the right time, especially speaking to those repeat purchasers. It really works very well. A lot of the times what we do is build templates for brands based on themes. So different days have different themes. If it's a CPG brand, one day is a recipe upselling, the product that is making the recipe essentially. It could be a promotion one day. It could be different things that resonate based on the data that you have already. We love sleek, simple emails. A lot of the times people overthink it, but you just want to keep it simple. We love saying the KISS method, keep it stupid, simple, and don't always overthink things. The best email marketers and the best things that we can do internally at Prolific is to always test and really try to continue on optimization to boost engagement and performance. So really speaking to an engaged audience rather than hitting your whole list is something that I really recommend doing, and taking the time to really delineate your customer segments and understand who they are is really important. Klaviyo allows you to do so many things based on user behavior. A lot of the times people don't know that you can, a previous email that's selling, to Bailey's point, a blue t-shirt or a blue tube top or a legging, you can actually target in Klaviyo people that opened, people that clicked, and people that purchased from that email or similar emails. So a lot of the times what we do is we build a segment based on who's actually, we call it email clickers or email openers. And that way we're delineating to that specific part of the list that showed intent for a similar future email.
Yep, it's something that we are doing day in and day out. And one thing here with testing and optimization, you don't have to go crazy. You don't have to create this huge experiment that you want to try to run. Just start testing subject lines, start testing header images or colors that you want to use. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. So if you're a small team, don't miss out on the opportunity to test and optimize, but you also don't have to get overwhelmed with it either.
Keep it stupid simple sometimes. But we're gonna boost Klaviyo here because there isn't another ESP that allows you to do the behavioral targeting in an easy way like Klaviyo.
Yep, and on our side as well, we use the same thing that our customers do. We're constantly creating engaged segments of people who have interacted, whether it's opened or clicked or performed a certain action on our emails, putting them into segments that we can then either retarget or make sure we're not hitting with another email.
Awesome. Optimizing your send time using Smart Send. We love Smart Send at Prolific. Like, it's super powerful. It kind of takes the guesswork out of it. In certain peak periods, we kind of deviate from Smart Send because we want to be top of mind. So if there's a peak Q4 promotion that's happening that ends, if there's Mother's Day, like we usually like to send that in the morning, depending on what day it's sent on. But it's really important to figure out your optimal send time. If you don't have this figured out in Klaviyo, we start with exploratory sending, and then you can dive into focused and optimal send times. So Exploratory sending allows you to lead into what is optimal send time. And basically, it just studies the user behavior as to when they're most engaged, when the most opens, right, clicks, purchases, etc. happen, and Klaviyo learns your audience over time and serves them. So building out your segments. I'm going to try to cruise through this. I know we're behind. We recommend sending 1 to 3 campaigns per week, depending on what level of brand you're at, of course. Some of our brands send 7 to 10 emails a week, but they're to slivers of the audience, to different segments of the audience. So rotating between all subscribers, 180-day engagement and 30-day engagement is kind of like our preliminary best practice. To maximize your retention revenue, that's where we get super segmented. Again, like some brands are sending 4 to 5 emails a week, 7 to 10 emails a week, but it's also those brands have like larger lists, so it's easier to segment as well. And we don't want to like overlap and hit the same people every single time. So if you sell, for example, both beauty and honey products, you can break it down based on like different SKUs, different variants, and purchase patterns. This is a infographic that you can take a look at as well. But this is kind of, there's a lot of like advanced segmentation that we're happy to give you. Again, we're doing free audits, so there's literally no strings attached. We'll just look into your Klaviyo account and provide a pretty thorough PowerPoint presentation. Here's optimizing your creative. Here's an email from GrowPro we love. Strong subject line that builds curiosity and speaks to the intent of the email. I think a lot of the times here, people are scared to take a risk. And my email marketing advisor at Prolific, who runs a lot of the email marketing at Toast, is just amazing. And she's challenged everyone at Prolific to take more risks, whether that's parody, whether that's being, direct to the point. We love prominent headlines. We love being shortened to the point, and then always have a pre-header and a preview text. A lot of the times, some people miss that. Here's some more information about subject lines. So catchy and builds curiosity. Test emojis. A lot of the times people don't want to test emojis, but if it's relevant, we usually see an increase of about 50% when using emojis versus like plain text. Create FOMO and urgency. And that's a great tactic. Again, you can use really good emails and MILD to study other campaigns. Another thing that I would recommend is subscribe to everyone that you love, that you are either inspired by or that competes with you, because you'll learn a lot from that. And we also, when we take on a brand, we do that at Prolific. We subscribe and we psychograph who the competition is, what brands inspire the brand, and learn. Not just simply the brand guide, the color palette, things like that. We learn about the voice, the tone, things of that, so we can start getting creative with it. The highest performing subject lines that we see have 4 words. And yeah, that's it. Some factors that affect email deliverability that we really see often. I know I'm 20 minutes over, so I'll try to just cruise through this. Apologies for the delay, but your list health cleanup, consistent sending practices, IP and domain reputation, content and creative, audience and email engagement, and then domain authentication and successful warm-ups are super important. Here's some audience and sending best practices. I'm just going to skim through it real quick. Send to an engaged audience, validate the email list at least quarterly with some of these services, add hard balances to suppression lists, focus on triggered behavior-based campaigns for increased engagement, throttle email sends, then using like a larger amount, leverage different subdomains for different types of emails, transactional, customer, demand, etc. And then for new IPs or subdomains, follow a proper warm-up procedure, which if you don't know what that means, I'm happy to talk offline about it. Practicing good list hygiene. I don't see people do this enough unless you're like a really big company. We recommend scrubbing your email list quarterly. Haven't opened an email in the last 250 days. They haven't clicked an email in the last 250 days, or they haven't been on the website in the past 180 days. Non-engaged responsive should be a segment within your Klaviyo account that you're also excluding from campaigns to keep your sender reputation high. This is kind of a 101 at Prolific that we always use. A lot of times I audit accounts, they're not being religious about that point. And here are some apps that you can use like Litmus to bolster this. Okay. We are here at the Q&A section. So we're going to take some Q&A. And yeah. Thank you all for your attention. I'm happy to kind of open up the floor depending on who is here. So, let me just see this. Stop sharing screen. Okay. So, yes, the recording is available after the call for sure. Let me see what else. You recommend starting SMS if we aren't currently? Yes, we highly recommend starting SMS. And that's the beauty if you're on Klaviyo. If you're not, you should be. But if you're not on Klaviyo, you can just simply, right, Bailey, sign up.
You can, if you have a Klaviyo account, yeah, you can immediately request a toll-free number. It's free. It takes just a few minutes to do that, and then you can get started.
Awesome. So we are offering free audits. If you're interested in a free audit, you can reach out to me directly, and I will plug you in with my team to start it. You could just reach out to Ramsey at prolific.media. What we're going through on the audits is really taking a deep dive into your Klaviyo account and your paid acquisition. So we could do all or some. And we'd love to audit everything. There's no strings attached. Obviously we do have a goal of working with you after the audit, but either way, you're going to get a ton of value out of it. So it's just, we love giving free value away. That's why we did this webinar. Any other questions? Again, the recording will be available after the call. So once the video processes, this will send to around 7,000 people. So this was really cool and exciting. I apologize for going a little over. Had some technical difficulties that threw me off. But it was really cool. We had over 29 countries register for this webinar. And overall, we just wanted to, come on and give some free value. So if you guys like this, and if you would like a free webinar or a free audit, please reach out to Ramsey at prolific.media. We'll also be following up with recipients and registrants to offer a free webinar. If you're not on Klaviyo and you join this webinar, I highly recommend talking to the team there or talking to me or my team. It's really changed a lot of businesses' trajectories, and I can't speak highly enough about the team at Klaviyo. Bailey, thank you so much for your time, and tell our partner team, and I will after this, that we're really excited and we hope to do this again.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, awesome. Any final points or questions? Awesome. Thanks everyone so much. Signing off from downtown Chicago. Bailey's in
right outside of Boston.
Right outside of Boston. All right. Cheers. Have a great week. Stay safe.